Well, hello, Miss Mena's 6th grade class. It's my honor to give you a little bit of what I know about maps. I am Chief Meteorologist Bryan Hale at KVEO CBS 4. Perhaps you've seen my wife, Mrs. Hale, walking the halls of your school. Nonetheless, we're going to talk about maps and how important they are. They're very important to my business for certain, but they're also important to aviation and transportation in general, to the fire department, to, oh, you name it. Maps are crucial, whether they're maps of the land, maps of the sea, you name it. They are so important. Now, as far as our application today, we're going to talk about weather and weather maps because that's what I do. And you look at something like this. This was from earlier today, and we had some thunderstorms roll through this part of the Rio Grande Valley. Where are you on this map? Okay, that's Los Indios, and that is San Benito up there. I wonder where you are in Harlingen. Okay, there you are, right there. Now, the action where I was showing you was right down here. So if you knew your map well, and you know your area well, you'd know exactly where I was pointing. Okay, maybe you were guessing. That's fine too. But go ahead now and say to yourself, I know where that is. And you can better know where you are when severe weather threatens, or you just want to take a drive somewhere. That too is important. Look at something like this, where you have the potential for severe weather just west of town. Now, I put a big old Oklahoma-style tornado on there just for giggles. We don't get these, but nonetheless, it's impressive. And that's moving to the east, on through Mercedes in just a little while from the time of this graphic. And you can see that it has 17 miles to go until it gets to Harlingen, but it's going 20 miles an hour. So you've got less than an hour to prepare or run like anything to get away from a storm like that. So again, maps are super important, and knowing where you are is important with severe weather. It's also important with a forecast, like the sea breeze pushing on inland. It pushes to the west. Do you know where west is in relation to the map? That's super important because that's going to generate some thunderstorm activity in the future. So that's a compass rose. I'm sure you've seen one before, but that's important to orient yourself in terms of the map. You know that that's north. Now you look at a map like this and you're like, oh boy, where am I? Well, fortunately, we live in a state that's very recognizable in terms of its shape. I'm from Michigan. Very recognizable. Looks like a big mitten. But down here in Texas, we are fortunate to have a state that's just everybody knows its shape. So you know you're down here in the south of it. That's the Rio Grande Valley. That's the Panhandle. That's out toward El Paso, Houston. It's all starting to fill in and become familiar to you. But then what if I zoom down into a map like this? Where are you? Well, you're in Hidalgo County. Or I zoom over to a map like this. You're in Cameron County. In fact, that's the road right there off to the island when you leave Harlingen and go off to visit South Padre Island. And then you look at a big map like this and you're like, holy smokes. Well, there's that mitten I was talking about. That's my home state. But then you look down in here and you say, okay, yeah, there I am. And this high pressure is impacting my area. Oh boy, it's going to be really hot in my area because you know you don't live in Nashville. You don't live in Tallahassee. You live in the Rio Grande Valley. And then when you look at a map like this tied into Harlingen. There's Harlingen right there. Boop. But then, go all the way out across the world, and you can see the Atlantic Ocean, and you see a hurricane forming. This is just an example. And then it may be heading off toward the East Coast, North Carolina. Do you know that's North Carolina? Well, see, that's important, because you're down here, and you're not threatened by this storm. So you can discern what's threatening me, what's not threatening me, what's looking good, what's looking bad, by knowing where you are on the map. Very important. Again, I'm Chief Meteorologist Bryan Hale, KVEO CBS 4. Thank you for letting me into your classroom.